Hello there. Do you sell high-end products or want to know the number one thing you need to break into the bougie market? Hey, I'm Maurice Spikerman, and you're inside the Commerce Collab Facebook group. So before I break this down, I want to say that I come from a humble background. My mom bought me earrings at Claire's boutique. If you want to position your brand to sell to a higher end market and still remember your roots and not be classist about things, it's fine. This is not what this is about. If you want to sell at a higher price point, that can be really meaningful to you and to your family. But to do that, there are some things that you need to know about the luxury market and that type of buyer and what they are looking for when they make buying decisions. And that's what we're going to talk about a little bit today. Before I get into the number one thing that you need if you want to see high ticket buyers come buy your products, I want to share a story with you about Black Friday from a couple of years ago. My husband and I went downstate to a bigger city, and we usually go down there to go get food because they have better food than we have in our smaller rural town. And it was the weekend before Black Friday, and we decided to brave the mall. Now, for me, this is a pretty big deal. For my husband, less of a big deal because he comes from Asia and basically the malls are almost always crazy there. But for me, it was a bit of a big deal because I suspected it would be crazy, and I was right. And we walked in the mall, and it was as you might expect. It was swamped. It was full of people. And every single store was running, a pre-Black Friday sale. There were signs everywhere screaming about 40% off or buy one, get one free, that kind of thing. People milling about, the noise, the crowd, the stimulation. I shut down with all the stimulation. And I was ready to hightail it out of there. It was just too much for me. And then I saw this sign. It caught my eye. It kind of like was this calm in the middle of the chaos. And it was from the store Bose, the speaker brand. And I'm going to share my screen with you. Hold on just a sec and show you it because I actually took a photo. That's how much it kind of stood out to me. Let me see if I can share my screen. Okay, there we go. Hold on. Hopefully you can see this. This was the sign. Now, it's really not that big a deal, but unlike the other signs in the mall, it wasn't really screaming at me about a savings or buy one, get one. And the other things that I want to point out to you about this sign, and make note, Bose is a higher end brand than something like American Eagle or Claire's or Jimmy Jazz. Do you see the heavy use of space on this sign? The whole sign isn't being filled up. There's a lot of space around the text. There's an elegance to it, right? There's this subtle bit of snow. It's not telling us what to do. It's got this subtle copy, hello, Black Friday. It's more like it's welcoming us into a conversation rather than telling us what we should do. But there's all these design elements that are more sophisticated and elegant and quiet. And that's what we're going to be talking about a little bit today. So Bose is a high-end brand. If you want to be a high-end brand and sell bougie stuff to an audience with fancy wallets, the number one thing you need to get right is your design approach. Design is what signals to these buyers that you are a high-end brand. And here's why. It's what tells their subconscious brains that rapidly process whether your products are at the level of quality and attention to detail that they're looking for. Design is a big part of what sends that message to their brain, those signals to their brains, okay? So they don't have to think about it. The design that you choose is telling them this particular brand, these particular products are at the level of quality and attention to detail that I expect because I will pay more money for quality and attention to detail and workmanship. So, here are 3 tips that I want to give you today on what your design needs in order to resonate with a high end market and send those signals subconsciously to them. So, the first one is this: your website needs to be understated and use a lot of white space. Think about what it's like when you walk down like Park Avenue and the way the shops are laid out there. You know, when you walk past or into something like a Chanel store, that store is not stuffed with 20,000 wallets. There might just be 50 or 100 products in the store, and they're each in a case, right? And there's a lot of space between each one. Your website needs to mimic a similar look and feel in terms of spaciousness. It should also be subtle and classy, kind of like the Bose sign that I just showed you. Nothing is screaming at anyone. There's very little clutter. I also want to throw a caveat in here. One of the things you might not know about me is that I come from 3 different backgrounds. I am a copywriter, but I also come from a design background. I was a designer for years, and I come from a website optimization background. Okay? That means my priority is making sure that people buy from your website. Most people who are designers are too focused on making everything pretty. Most people who are in website optimization are too focused on getting people to hit the buy button. Very few people merge the two, and that's where I come in. So here's what I mean. If we're thinking about what you need to do to attract those high-end buyers, I want to share a common problem that I see designers make when designing upscale websites. They will make the fonts on the website way too tiny. Like you can barely read them. And if you're over the age of 35, good luck to you. Okay. Now, if you think about it just from a branding and design point of view, it makes sense. It fits that understated style that I was just breaking down for you, right? But it does become a problem when we think about website conversion for getting people to buy from you. So there's this balance you need to strike. You don't want to go so understated with something like your font sizes, especially on things like your add to cart button, that people just can't see it and then they can't buy from you. Okay. So that was high-end design tip number 1. You want to use a lot of white space, be understated. And this tip can apply not just to your website, but to your other graphics, like your social media feeds and your promotional graphics. Actually, all these tips can apply to your other graphics. My second tip for you is this: use elegant fonts. You don't want to use fonts that are too cutesy or cheap looking. And when you aren't a designer, it can be kind of hard to know, well, Reese, what is an elegant font, right? So I want to share a resource for you to just look through for some inspiration. It often showcases fonts that are fairly elegant. Now, I have a caveat about this site. A lot of the websites on this resource are not designed well for conversion, okay? They aren't necessarily great websites to help that are designed to get people to buy, okay? But in terms of looking at these for elegant fonts, it is a good resource for that. And it's called typewolf.com. You can just go there, look through the websites for some font inspiration. If you have higher priced products and you want to attract a market that's paying a premium, you're going to need to invest a bit in typography. And especially on things like your product packaging, that's really a place where you send a signal to the higher end buyer that This is a premium product, what you do with your packaging. And the fonts you choose and using a lot of white space are some of the ways you send that signal. They can just kind of tell. It's kind of like it's a pattern that's been trained in their brain over the years and decades. Certain types of fonts and the way they're used and their elegance will let them know this is a pricier product. This is a quality product. It's one of those design things. It's kind of like the difference between using linoleum versus hardwood on your floors. And listen, guys, again, you know me, I keep it real. There's nothing wrong with linoleum flooring. I grew up with it. It's just, I want to be honest to you about the signals you send. And premium typography is kind of like hardwood flooring. It says this is a high quality product. This is a higher end product. So that was design tip number 2. Use elegant fonts and go check out typewolf.com just to look for the fonts. Do not go look at typewolf.com's websites in terms of website optimization, conversion rate optimization. These are not necessarily great websites that are designed well for getting people to buy, okay? Just for fonts. The third design tip I have for you today to help attract those higher end buyers is this. You want to use a minimal decoration in your design. And this kind of relates to number 1, where I said in your website, you want to be understated, be fairly neutral. There's some exceptions to this. It depends on the culture and the country you're in at times. Like I remember when I lived in Southeast Asia, there was a subsegment of higher end brands that would be kind of loud in their branding and very obvious. And people would make it very clear that they were wearing Louis Vuitton, and I remember once being on the MRT, like the high end or the transit line in Singapore, and there was someone wearing 3 or 4 different brands. He had on like pants and shoes and a coat, and it was like very clear. All the labels were there, right? It was kind of funny. But in general, especially here in the West, the higher end market is looking more for the brand to not be obvious. They're looking for minimal decoration, okay? They tend to not want to wear their money on their sleeve, so to speak. So in general, when you combine these 3 tips, when you combine spaciousness, elegant fonts, and minimal decoration, what it does is it conveys this sophistication and high class feel. So again, subtlety is really key here. So there you have it. Those were 3 ways to design to appeal to a higher end market. And we go over design really deep detail in my Streamlined Product Sales Academy group program that's coming this February. I have an early bird payment plan that's available until the end of November. If you want to know more about that and how you can get in on that and get really detailed design feedback from me to grow your e-commerce brand over 6 months, just drop Academy in the comments. And here is what I would absolutely love to hear from you. Also drop in the comments some of the brands or products you've noticed have a really high-end feel. Maybe they've been brands or products you've bought from, or just ones you've noticed. You can drop a link to a website or just name some of them, like, drop the name Chanel, whatever it is. I'm really curious, and we can all learn from each other this way, and just give some people some examples of places that you think exemplify what I have talked about today. I'm going to go check in quick on Facebook, see who's joining us live, because I didn't do that at the beginning of our chat. Who have we got here? Looks like we've got Jillian and Cindy with us. Hey, Cindy. Hey, Jillian. Hey, Bev. Hey, Elisa. Hey, so great to have you guys here. So again, drop comments on any high-end brands that you can think of that you want to let. John Hardy. Okay, thanks, Elisa. I'll go check them out. And it was great seeing you today, having a little chat with you. I hope you have an amazing rest of your week and stay calm. Things are heating up in terms of the holidays, Black Friday. I know you can do this, and I will be in touch. I will see you next week for another edition of Talk Shop Tuesday. Have a wonderful week, everybody. Bye.